Begin transmission. Signal trace authenticated. Entry 719. Recovered log stream from dig site Helios V on exoplanet GX441. Accessing file 1 of 5. This log was extracted from the fragmented memory core of xenogeologist James Halden, lead analyst on the Helios V excavation mission. The crew was tasked with exploring a buried monolithic ruin beneath the sands of GX441, a sterile exoplanet with no atmosphere, fauna, or detectable life. 12 personnel landed. Only James returned. This is his reconstructed testimony.
They said GX441 was dead. No wind, no water, no pulse. Just endless red sand. And a silence so dense it pressed on your bones like pressure at the bottom of an ocean. We arrived in Rotation 7, a team of 12, all hand-picked. Scientists, engineers, one corporate rep we weren't supposed to talk to unless something went wrong. He smiled a lot. He never blinked. I remember stepping out of the crawler for the first time and thinking the sand looked wrong, like it was too smooth, like it had settled over something ancient. It had. The scanners picked up geometry within 6 hours. Perfect geometry, not natural, not accidental. A city, buried, and it was huge. I didn't sleep the first night, neither did Connor, our structural analyst. He kept sketching the layout, said he could feel it in his dreams, even though we hadn't entered the vault yet. On day 3, we breached the outer wall. It wasn't made of stone. It looked like stone, but the drill cores came back all wrong. No sedimentation, no molecular decay, not even age. It was still being written like living architecture. When I touched it, the wall was cold. Not just cold, humming. A sound only your teeth can hear. I didn't say anything to the others. On day 5, Jenkins reported hearing her sister's voice during her night shift. Her sister died 5 years ago. No one believed her, but no one laughed either. Something about this place made even disbelief feel dangerous. By day 7, everyone had heard something. A parent, a lover, a child. Not screams, not threats, just familiar voices, calling softly from somewhere deeper in the ruin, from the center. That's when we stopped being a team. We stopped taking meals together. We started keeping secrets. We stopped sleeping. Connor collapsed in the western shaft. Said he saw something in the reflection of his visor. But the visor was matte black. No reflection. I checked the crawl logs. He hadn't moved in 36 hours. I replayed his field audio. There were 2 breathing patterns. One human, one not. I tried to isolate the second pattern, ran it through the base, AI. It returned one word, a glitch maybe. But the word was, welcome. The next day our comms went silent. We thought it was the sandstorms, but there were no storms. Only us. Only the city. Still humming. Still alive. And deep below, beneath all the hallways we mapped and all the corridors we never finished carving, was a single door. sealed, waiting, not for us, but for me. I didn't understand how I knew that, but I did. That night I woke up with sand in my mouth and a voice, my mother's, whispering from the ceiling of the sleeping quarters, "Go deeper, James. You've always belonged below." And I believed her, because the city had learned my mother's voice and was speaking through her.
Transmission thread unstable. Voice pattern divergence detected. Recompiling signal. Stand by. Entry 719. Accessing file 2 of 5.
The entrance wasn't dug, it was uncovered. The sand had receded overnight, though no wind had touched the planet in centuries. Where there had been dunes, there was now a stairwell spiraling down into the red. We called it the vault mouth. Cromer, one of the xenoarchs, insisted we wait for additional scans, but it was too late. Weller and Moss were already descending. I followed. The walls were lined with grooves, but not mechanical, like growth rings, flesh pretending to be stone. At 10 meters, the light from our helmets dimmed. Not failed, dimmed. Weller said the walls were drinking photons. Moss laughed, then screamed. There was something in the groove. A tooth, 6 inches long, translucent, embedded like it had grown there. Cromer wanted to tag it and return. Weller broke it off. It bled. Only for a moment, but I'll never forget the color. Like rust and milk and static. The vault mouth didn't end in a floor, it ended in a reflection. Below us, where there should have been bedrock, was a mirror. Not a literal one. We looked down and saw ourselves. Moving, but not matching. Moss reached down toward his reflection. The thing in the mirror reached back, but faster. He panicked, slipped, fell through, but didn't land. He melted, not thermally, like someone turned his body into a memory halfway remembered. We heard him screaming on the comms for 11 minutes. In languages he didn't speak, then static, then laughter, not his, not ours. Weller said nothing, just sat at the stairwell edge, muttering. When we pulled him back, he looked at me and said, "The vault ate his name. I don't remember who we lost." That was the first moment I felt the city moving. Not literally, but behind the walls, between time's folds, like it was breathing differently, changing tempo, tuning itself to us. Back at the surface, Cromer sealed the hatch, wrote a report for corporate. But the satellite was no longer responding. Its orbit was unchanged. Its power was fine. It just wasn't answering. We weren't alone anymore. Not in the vault. Not even in our minds. The voice came back to me in sleep. My mother again. Your father's waiting inside. He's proud of what you've become. I remember weeping. My father died during Earthfall. I never buried him. And the vault knew that. I checked my quarters, found a black stone on my pillow, still wet. It had teeth.
Thread rupture detected. Voice realignment in progress. Accessing file 3 of 5.
We should have left. Weller stopped sleeping. He just sat near the sealed hatch, whispering phrases I couldn't translate. Cromer was gone. Not missing, not dead. Just removed. His name wouldn't return when I said it aloud. His bunk was empty. His logs corrupted. Even the meal tracker said he'd never been assigned to the dig. Only one of us remembered him, me. And I wasn't even sure if that was true. The vault was spreading in us, not physically. It was reshaping our thoughts, rewording memory. I dreamed of maps that folded into mouths, of names that rewrote themselves backwards in my handwriting, of my mother's voice saying, "You were born to return to this place." I woke up with dirt under my fingernails. Weller was drawing something on the walls, concentric circles. Each one had notches, too many to count. He said, "These are the syllables of the vault's name." I told him the vault didn't have a name. He said, "Everything that eats does." Then he smiled. His teeth weren't right. He pulled one out, held it to the light. It shimmered, not like bone, like the mirror inside the mouth. That's when I knew Weller was translating, but not the vault. The vault was translating him. Every phrase he uttered now sounded less like language and more like echo. Not a replay, a pre-play, like the words were arriving before he thought them. I tried to contact base camp again. Nothing. The comms module was intact, but the air, it distorted transmission, like words sent outward came back chewed. I played one of the logs back, heard myself, but I was laughing, not me laughing. Someone using my laugh like a mask. I started cataloging the breaches. Day 19, Moss's name removed. Day 22, Cromer unassigned. Day 24, Weller speaks in pre-thought. Day 26. I woke speaking a word that wasn't mine. Glaivoth. I don't know what it means. But when I say it, the vault hums. The walls sweat. They truly sweat. droplets of oil or something like it, forming from invisible pores. I tasted one. It whispered my first name, not the one I go by, the one my mother used when I was a child. That's when I realized the vault doesn't hear us. It remembers us, and it's trying to become us.
Thread desynchronization detected. Stand by. Language matrix restoring alignment. Accessing file 4 of 5.
I found Weller's recorder embedded in the wall, not wedged, embedded, half melted into the slick ceramic stratum just above the descent shaft. It played, even without power, a loop of breathing, but not Weller's, not anyone's. It was too slow, too deep, like something enormous breathing through hollow earth. The loop glitched once, then whispered a single word. My name. I dropped it. The recorder vanished into the dark below. Not a clatter, not a bounce, just gone. I looked down the shaft. The descent tunnels were made of something too smooth to be natural, but too irregular to be designed. Somewhere in the silence, I heard a voice I hadn't heard in years. My brother, dead for 10, he was calling my childhood nickname. The one I'd forgotten until that moment. The vault didn't need radio to speak. It had me. My thoughts were no longer a safe place. They belonged to something else now. Something that wrote in me. I began hearing echoes before I made a sound. Like my body was receiving transmissions I hadn't sent yet. Inside my suit's visor, I saw flickers, not light, expressions, familiar faces moving across the inside glass, all smiling, all almost right. Except for the eyes, too many. Weller returned from the shaft at 0600 hours. But he was wrong. His movements were mirrored, literally, like his joints bent the opposite direction and reality accepted it. He didn't speak. He whistled a tune. It was Happy Birthday. Not mine, not his. We had never spoken about birthdays. He walked past me, skin taut and damp, as if he'd been inside something wet for days. He left footprints behind. They weren't his. They were mine. Identical. To the step. That's when I understood. The vault wasn't erasing us, it was overwriting. We weren't just becoming it. It was becoming us. I descended, deeper than protocol allowed, down corridors that rearranged behind me. One hallway ended in a mirrored arch. When I looked in, I saw myself, but with Weller's smile, and behind me, dozens more, each me, each slightly off, each waiting to see if I would notice. I closed my eyes, still saw them because they weren't visions, they were cached, stored, echoed, and I wasn't sure anymore if I'd ever arrived here at all, or if I'd always been part of it. When I turned back, the path was gone. Only the whisper remained. You are home.
Signal degradation detected. Linguistic anchors breaking down. Rebuilding core thread. Entry 719. Accessing final file. 5 of 5.
I don't remember walking. There was no descent, no crawl space, no shaft, just black and then light. Not overhead, underneath. The stone glowed from the inside out. I stood in what could only be described as a city, if cities were made of bone geometry and regret. The monoliths were arranged in spirals, recursive patterns folding in on themselves. And in the center, a pulsing white structure, neither smooth nor rough, neither alive nor dead, just watching. It had no windows, no doors, no shape I can hold in language, but I knew it was the heart of the vault, of this world, of everything. I approached. The further I walked, the more my mind unwound. My memories began bleeding into each other. The exoplanet, my brother, the academy, my first kiss, all replaying, all distorted. And the whispers now wore those faces. They didn't speak in alien tongues. They spoke in the voices of the people I loved, asking questions only I would know. Things no transmission could access. Things buried in shame, in grief. One voice asked, "Do you remember the scream you buried?" Another, "Why did you lie to her before she died?" Then another, my own voice, "Do you still believe this was exploration?" I reached the center, the white mass. It opened, not like a door, like an eye, inside nothing and everything. A tunnel made of moments I hadn't lived yet. A timeline I was about to be written into. And the whisper said, "You were never meant to find the vault. You were always meant to return to it." Then it reached into me. Not physically, it touched the parts I don't name. My sense of me, my emotional center, my boundary between dream and knowing. And I don't know if I ever left.
This report was recovered from an unknown interface, one not found on any known system. The linguistics officer's neural stack was empty, save for this looped file. He speaks in his own voice. But the cadence, the pacing, are not human. He ends with a phrase never recorded before. And it's not a warning, not a call for help, just a sentence spoken with calm, frozen certainty.
I remember you now.
End transmission. Echo tagged for black site encryption. Root access denied. Memory trace locked. Archive 9. Recursive loop complete.